Pink tights.
For first-time authors who have a pretty small platform currently, what do you think of PR firms? Do you think they're worthwhile? Because realistically, they can do things that people can't do, at least in a shorter period of time.
First-time authors, what do I think about PR firms who have small bases? I think it's a massive gamble. It's going to cost you money, and I'd rather see first-time authors get dirty and put in the sweat equity into these platforms and build a fan base. It's a far more substantial connection. It converts way better, and I just think that a good PR firm is going to, a real good one that's really going to move the needle, like the ones knowing what I know about this space. That's like $3,000–4,000. If you're paying a month, if you're paying less than that, you're going to get that kind of work. And I just, from somebody who's on the Today Show and CNN and gets Wall Street Journal Times, it's nice. It could be a spike, but it's like hooking up instead of getting married. So that's that.
I'm graduating from college next year, so I kind of feel like I'm getting up the starting blocks.
Yep.
If you were in my shoes and
I'd quit college. Why waste the extra 6 months?
What would you do different if you had to start over at 22?
I probably would have. The hardest thing about it, what would I do if I started over at 22 is probably the biggest financial business mistake I've ever made is to go into the family business. But the best emotional and for getting to know my dad and all the things it did for my family, so I'd never do it differently, right? So I would, I would never do anything different. Sitting here today in front of you, look at this. You know what this feels like? And I have a healthy family and all that. Who knows what would have happened if I did something different? So there's no what would I do different. But I know this. I would, this is an absolute true statement. I would, no doubt, give up everything I have to be 22 again and start over. And not even with the knowledge I know, because of the timing of this space. Forget, I can give up all the knowledge, be 22, same person I was. There's so much more opportunity for a 22-year-old today than there was 12 years ago. Not even close. So I would tell you that I would work for people that you think are brilliant, and I would work for free. The fact of the matter of paying universities $80,000 over 4 years, or go work for nothing or minimum wage for entrepreneurs or specialists in the field that you love is no comparison. The way they built this system in our society is pretty interesting. I need to figure out who figured out this racket, because they're brilliant. Because boy, oh boy, I had MBAs from Harvard and Arden hang out with me this summer, and they're devastated going back to school. They're like this below, they're emailing me every day. Like, I can't believe it. So if you're a true entrepreneur, it's a no-brainer. If you sold stuff before you were 10, school is probably the misplay of the century. But there's a lot of professions it's good for. It's about knowing who you are. You're welcome, man. Yes, sir.
What is your advice specifically to young people whose passion is wine?
Young people's passion is wine. A couple things. Taste your ass off. Way too many people get caught up in reading wine, and they know all the sommelier stuff, and they take the WSET and all this, and they think they're brilliant, and they don't know shit because they don't drink. They're not drinking heavily. I mean tasting. And especially when I go to California or when I'm here, you need to do at all costs to taste different stuff, because you get very hometown and start drinking a lot of Pinot Noir and Pinot Gris when you're here, when you're not drinking wines from the Cahors or Bandol or Loire Valley or Argentina. So at all costs, when you're in an environment, you live here, you need to find hopefully there's some wine shops here that span the globe, and 90% of what you should be buying should be wines that don't even come from this country. You've got to expand your palate. And drinking another Pinot Noir or understanding why 07 with cold climate is better than 06 with warm climate here, it's not enough. Because when you get into the real, the big leagues of the wine world, where eventually everybody wants to go, I guess, if you have ambition, you start realizing you don't know that much because you've been drinking hometown. California sommeliers are pushovers a lot of times because they're just too West Coast. you know? Because they only drink California and Northwest wines. And so I would push heavily to tasting as many different things as possible. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do is expand your palate, try different things. Everything falls into place after that. Yes, sir.
What blows me away is, let's say you do 4 wines a day on your show. 5 days, that's 20 wines a week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about 1,000, what is that a year? How many
20,
wines?
yeah, it's like 900.
Yeah, and then California alone just surpassed 2,800 wineries about 5 months ago.
Mhm.
It's 11,200 labels at least if every winery made 4 wines.
Yeah.
You're just scratching the surface.
Oh.
You're doing nothing. I mean, that's what, it's just amazing.
Nothing.
It's unbelievable.
Nothing. And
how much juice is out there.
And you know, besides Wine Library TV, you know, not as much right now, but I was tasting 40, 50 wines a day, and it's still nothing.
Nothing.
And then they all start over every year. You feel like you're doing something good. Damn. Absolutely. It's which is why it was such a great subject matter for Wine Library TV, right?
Yeah.
People are like, well, aren't you worried? I'm like, worried?
Worried about running out?
Worried about what? If every one of us drank 4 wines a day, we wouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
So it's a big
Huge.
landscape. Yeah. Yes.
So how do you feel about sharing your wealth now that you've worked so hard and built so much? Like
My
charity
physical,
and
yeah. Go ahead.
that sort of thing. What's your opinion on
This
that?
is such an interesting, so the question is about charity. So a lot of people know that I do a lot of charity stuff, and I never talk about it. And a lot of people are, like Charity Water and some of the other people out there, a lot of people are pushing me and saying, you know, it's your responsibility. A lot of people listen to you, and you could set a great example. And it's so weird, Gary, you're so selly and always talking about yourself. This is one thing people would really like about you. Why aren't you talking about it? I've been very turned off by the way a lot of people play charity. I think people use it to create more business for themselves, and it's kind of lame. You know, I'm in those circles where people talk about the tax breaks and what kind of great deal it is and how it's great and makes you, I don't know, I'm very weird when it comes to this subject. I keep it so private, even more so than my private life. I'm not quite sure why. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's a complete no-brainer, right? Ironically, I feel like those dollars are great, but it's kind of like investing in the stock market. I'm not in control of it. It's why I like doing the talks and the Ustreams and answering all the emails and writing this book. And there's a lot of people who didn't like the way I wrote this book because they felt, a lot of people came back to me like, why didn't you hold back? You have to sell people to Vaynermedia and this and that. You know, I feel like I could do, I think I can do a lot of, listen, I'm going to Ethiopia to, you know, dig wells for water in January. So I'm willing to do stuff, but I definitely feel like I can do more by, you know, educating the masses about the opportunities they have in front of them. You know, creating wealth for other people leads to people that have, then people can, you know, it's more scalable at some level, right? But yeah, I mean, I think it's an amazingly important source of responsibility. I actually think volunteering and doing nice things is equally important. Like, it's not about the money. The money's easy. Seriously, the money's easy. A lot of times it's tax deductible. It's easy. That doesn't mean as much to me as, you know, going to colleges and lecturing and, you know, and interacting with people and, you know, the money's easy. Yes?
What if charity is your passion?
If charity's your passion, you're damn lucky because you can make a huge impact. The thing with charity that I find very interesting is that it's not entrepreneurial enough. And that's why I like Charity Water, because Scott is an entrepreneur and he's making shit happen. And I like the way he's approaching it. And for sure, if there comes a day in my career where I decide to solely focus on that after I buy the Jets and win Super Bowls, I definitely will approach it massively massively entrepreneurial. And I think that you're very lucky to be into that because there's some really cool stuff growing online around charities. Tons. We're getting inundated.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on VC funding?
So I think VC funding is going to start feeling the pressures of things like Vaynermedia. You know, I'm building Vaynermedia to basically, we do a lot of angel investing. And not only do we give small chunks of cash, but we also give sweat equity. And I think it's going to be a model that's going to start getting replicated quite a bit because the money is easy.